you were saying that everyone, it's like, right when you call them or ask them to do this, they're thinking about their dad or they want a better relationship. And my dad passed in I think it was 2008.
Okay.
And I can't help but to think of my dad every day because I'm so much like him. As I get older and older and older, it's like I just become more and more like this man. And he was a motherfucker. Like, he was, born in 1941. He was a self-made man. He became like a boss at like 30 years old, 40 years old. He took over my aunt's number business, the illegal lottery business. And she went to jail for a long time, or for like 10, 12 years, something like that. And he took over the business. And now I am taking over the properties, not taking over, but I'm the person in charge of the properties. They're in my they're for my whole family, but I'm the person that's in charge now. And that's why I had to delay this interview, because I was literally doing business for it. So it's like, I can't help but to think of my dad all the time right now, especially because I'm walking back in his footsteps and I'm dealing with my other siblings, and we all have the same dad, and some of them are more like him than others. And, it's just an interesting time in my life. So I'm always thinking about my dad. Like, either someone's telling me I act like him, I'm talking like him, I'm mean like him, I'm, whatever the case is, So.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, same. My dad transitioned in 2022. And literally I just find myself always doing something that's just like uplifting his legacy. This project, like, even when he transitioned in 2022, just, because I'm a creator, so that's where my heart is at, and it's just always so present.
I was never able to, like, I don't have that connection with my dad. I have like a business. He wasn't like creative. I mean, I guess he was creative, but the thing that locked in is like the business aspect side. That's what I'm getting pulled in, like how you're getting pulled in with the creative, and you're like, that's all I know and that's what I do. Mine is like, I'm a creative and I sing and I make music, but the connection I have with my dad is from seeing him go to work every day, going to work with him, being able to, and then working with him. So it's like a whole difference. So now that time has gone and now I'm in charge of, his properties, it's like that connection. It's like all full circle for me in that respect. But there is a music aspect to it as well. So
okay,
we're going to get into it, I guess.
All right, well, let's get into it then. Well, we're already in it, so let's keep going. So I'd like to start off with some warm-up. First, okay, let me make sure I say all the things.
Oh. Okay.
It sounds like we don't have any interference. This is normally in person. Like, just want to make sure there's no clank and stuff, but it doesn't seem like that's happening.
Are you going to actually take this actual audio?
Yeah, I'm going to take the audio.
Okay.
And like, just chop it up in clips. Like right now, normally I would put it into Otter. I don't know if you're familiar with Otter. It's like a transcription service. But right now it's just taking our conversation, which is pretty fire. I don't have to do that part. Yeah, just listening to our conversation, pulling out similar themes that happen throughout all of the interviews that I have, and just very specific details about you and your father's relationship. Normally I would say there's going to be a professional photographer taking a picture of you. I don't know what I'm going to do about that portion, but definitely want to have you and your work in the exhibition in some type of way.
I have a lot of pictures. I mean,
okay, cool beans. But yeah, so.
Or I would actually like a picture of me and my dad.
Yeah.
In it, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, like those are the type of things that I'm going to ask people to bring so I can scan and display. But we'll work out those logistics since you're in Philadelphia?
Philly.
Philly.
Yeah, Philly. Where are you at?
I'm in Detroit.
Oh, nice. All right.
Yeah, in Detroit. Okay. Yeah, I saw you in Detroit at, what's the name of that place? It's like a smaller stage, but the venue.
Oh yeah, Willis.
Yeah, Willis Show Bar.
Yeah, that was crazy. That place is crazy. Like the stage is so small.
Yeah, such an interesting place. They got a lot of stuff going on politically right now, I guess too. I don't really know much about it, but
I don't either. I
read it. I was like, oh snap, what's going on with Willis? It's like the whole thing, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, something about supporting certain parties and, you know, all the things. So let's start off with some warm-up questions, and I'm going to allow you to speak. Normally in conversation, I'll say, you know, just back and forth, but because I want to take the audio, I'm going to be quiet a little bit more as opposed to just back and forth. So when I first reached out, what went through your mind?
I thought about my dad. I thought about the music that we listened to. And I thought, wow, people never really asked me about that.
Okay. Are you into astrology at all?
Yes, I am.
Have you ever thought about your sign and your dad's sign and what that connection means in relation to music or just in general?
Yeah, well, I think of it a little bit more broader than just my father. I think about my immediate family, and my mom is a Gemini. My father is a Gemini. My brother is an Aquarius. My sister is an Aquarius. And my mom told me that she had me on purpose as a Libra to balance out the household. I'm the youngest. So my dad is a May 26th Gemini. My mom is a June 2nd Gemini. My brother is a January Gemini, January Aquarius. And my sister is a February Aquarius. And then I'm an October Libra. And, you know, my brother is the oldest in the household, then my sister, and then me. And I feel like having my father as a Gemini, or having my father be my father and him being a Gemini, it was like living with two different people. Completely. Like, what people say about Geminis, how they're two different people, is exactly a part of his whole personality and his whole thing.
Wow. And that's so funny. Your mom was like, yeah, we're going to need to balance this out.
Right. And my mom is not all like hocus pocus, you know, artsy fartsy. Neither one of my parents are, you know, but, she's come across some things, I guess, here and there, you know, that made her think that, but my mom's not, you know, rocking a head wrap and burning incense at the crib. My mom is a very, you know, regular South Philly, you know, woman. You know, she's not all eclectic or anything like that, you know. She's just regular and cool.
Okay. Can you tell me about your relationship with music?
I'm a singer, and I have always been a singer since I was about 7 years old. And I don't think I knew it then. I think when I was younger, I just thought everybody could sing. If you can talk, you can sing. But I definitely was a singer, and I guess everybody else around me knew it except me. My mom encouraged me to sing, and, you know, she would just hear me. She said she would hear me in her womb singing, which I'm like, really? I got to ask her again. But she said that before. And she eventually, you know, got me voice lessons, and when I was like about 8 years old, and I would sing. But when I look back at, you know, what I was doing when I was 8, 9 years old, I would have never in a million years thought that I would grow up to really be a singer, because I didn't sound like a grown woman when I was singing, you know, or just that great of a singer. I sounded like a 7-year-old singing. I didn't sound like any more special or anything. At least I don't think so when I look back and listen. So, but I've had a relationship with music since I can ever remember, because it was something that was always played in my household, early in the morning before we would go to school. I remember dancing in front of the mirror with my mom. With my dad, I remember music, being the thing that we listened to on the way to work. You know, he drove really nice cars. My dad was really into fancy cars. So he's had a 1976 sunburst orange Stingray Corvette with like pipes on the side, you know, to make the car go faster. And then he had like a 1964 Camaro later on in his life. When, you know, he had the Corvette, then he had like a 1991 ZR1 Corvette that was white with red leather inside. He had a, you know, in the 80s, he had the Benz, you know, but he had all these cars at the same time. Then he would have like pickup trucks, you know, for work, a van. We had an OJ Jeep as well. And I'm talking about these cars, especially the nicer ones, because everybody knows when you have a really nice car or expensive car, you have a really good sound system. And the sound system, I would always remember like loving to drive to work with my dad and never wanting to be late or, you know, where I would miss the ride in with him, because he had a bomb system in his car. And we would listen to all his favorite music. I never had a choice of what we listened to. But, you know, he would always have his CDs of what he liked to listen to. And he would blast it. Like, he was one of those people that listened to music really loud. And, you know, that's just one of the things that I remember the most. And what we listened to.
What kind of music do you create or gravitate towards?
What I create versus what I gravitate towards are two different things. So I create rock, pop music. I create music that is genre blending. So it'll have a little bit of reggae in it. Sometimes it'll have rock and hip hop in it and R&B. That's what I create. But what I gravitate towards is the music that I grew up listening to, which is really great written songs. I like a lot of songs from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s more than the 90s and early 2000s. I like Marvin Gaye. I like R&B, but like soulful R&B. I like doo-wop. I like hip hop. I gravitate to music that is soothing to my ear. That's what I really gravitate to, like the voice, the tone of voice, a certain tone of voice with the artist. And songs that have really great melodies, really pretty melodies that make you want to sing. I love Stevie Wonder. I love Patti LaBelle. I love Al Green. I love Prince. I love, you know, different things like that. I like even 80s pop music, you know, but the stuff that I gravitate towards is always something that has a pretty melody and a song where the person is singing and you can understand what they're saying. Not songs that are just like, you know, mumbly singing, you know, like really obscure sounding where you can't understand what the person's saying. I don't really like songs like that. I like songs that have, like Sade. I like Sade. I like, you know, pretty melodies, great tone of voices, soothing things.
Yeah, same. Was there a moment you realized you truly love music?
Yeah, I think I realized it when I didn't want to do anything else, even though I probably should have done something else. That's when I was like, oh shit, I must really love it, because I know I should, in order to get the things that I want, I definitely should not be doing this. This is not the easiest way to get to what I want, but I still do it anyway. So that's when I realized I really love it, because it's like I can't almost walk away from it.
What is one song that always warms your heart no matter your mood?
It's a song called Sparrow by Marvin Gaye. It's on this album called Here My Dear.
Called what now?
The album is called Here My Dear by Marvin Gaye, and the song is called Sparrow.
Okay.
Like a bird.
Everybody's saying the same, not the same song, but like it's either Stevie or Marvin Gaye so far. Like,
I mean, that's my
I
shit.
know, and it makes sense, but it's just like so interesting. Okay, where we at?
Maybe it's the age group of our parents or something.
Yeah, that's true too.
Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And we're all probably black.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I didn't name that for this project, but I legit am like not even really focused on any other demographic.
Right. You're like, I'm legit black.
Yeah. So what are black people talking about? Well, yeah. Okay, musical memories and traditions. So what are some of your earliest or most cherished musical memories with your dad?
Well, for starters, definitely the drives in to work with him or anywhere with him. But there was one time that my dad took me to a concert, and we all wanted to see the people at the concert, but it was different people. It was in Philadelphia, and it was like Boyz II Men, Jodeci, and like MC Hammer. And for some reason, my dad liked MC Hammer. I wanted to see Jodeci. Even though, I'm from Philly, and I guess I'm supposed to say I wanted to see Boyz II Men, but Boyz II Men was kind of like whatever for me. But I was into Jodeci. So my dad got a limo, like a super stretch limo, and me and my sister and him went to see Jodeci. Or I went, I felt like it was just for Jodeci, but we went to see Jodeci, MC Hammer, and Boyz II Men. And I don't know, it was just really cool, because he was old. Like, I felt like he was older, even though, or I just felt like, oh my God, I'm here with my dad, and it was kind of cool that he wanted to see somebody in the same realm, so that was cool for us. And the other memory I have is just, him coming to my show. He didn't go to a lot of my shows, but he went to a handful of them. And just cause, I don't know why, it wasn't any like beef or anything. He just, just didn't go to every single show. But he went to this one show in Atlanta, and, it just was great to see him there. It was great because he was really proud of me. He had got his friends. It was like 3 of his friends came with him and flew out from Philly. And, it was just a moment of like, he's proud, you don't really get to really understand or see your parents really proud of you, I think, besides graduation or, I don't know, pretty much like graduation, So for him to see me in my work and be supportive and show up for me, and then be proud enough to get his friends to fly to Atlanta with him and have like a whole weekend. It was pretty cool. I was really flattered. And also there's another show he came to that was at the Camden waterfront. And after the show, he just couldn't believe that I got up there on stage and sang in front of all those people. And, so for me, like anytime that he saw me do anything music wise and was proud of me, that's like, for me, that's a big deal.
Mm. Are there any songs, artists, or instruments that remind you of your father?
I would have to say Marvin Gaye, Gerald Levert, The Intruders. There's certain songs that those guys sang, Teddy Pendergrass. The songs that those guys sang that he would listen to all the time, and Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, which is the group that Teddy Pendergrass was a part of before he went solo. It's funny because I grew up living around the corner from Teddy Pendergrass as well, too, which is interesting, but just random at the same time. But as far as instruments, I think of the guitar, because years later, I grew up, I became a singer. I was living in Los Angeles, and I opened up for Maxwell. And on that tour, I got to meet Maxwell's guitar player, who was Wawa Watson. And I realized that a lot of the music I grew up listening to had guitars in it. And Wawa was specifically the person playing them. And when I think about those songs, not only was Wawa playing those, and I actually met this man and he became my mentor, but my dad introduced me to those particular songs on those car rides, So it's kind of like a full circle moment. And I got to introduce them, and I didn't introduce them on some oh yeah, this is, my dad, and dad, this is Wawa, and he, played on all those songs. But I just introduced, we all went to breakfast or whatever, one day when my dad came to visit me in Cali, and it was just I just introduced them. We just had lunch or breakfast, and it was just a chill moment. It wasn't, I didn't put those two things together at that time for them, but that's what they both represented to me. So yeah, the guitar, those music artists, particular songs, for the Intruders, there's a song called Cowboys to Girls. For Teddy Pendergrass, I would say it's the song I Miss You. For Patti LaBelle, it would be You Are My Friend. It's certain songs that, or On My Own, it's certain songs that, he listened to, and he would listen to them over and over again on repeat, Yeah. And then it's always my dad passed away, so it's always the CD that you notice that's in his car the day that he passed or something, you know what I mean? And that was a Gerald Levert CD. And there's a specific song that I know he likes. So, certain songs like that kind of get to me.
So as Black families, we have that tradition of performing in the middle of the living room at a function. Was that you?
Girl. Yes, that was me. It was never when my dad was there. It was never a function. If we had any function that my dad was home for that he, threw or whatever, he would never ask me to sing. In my dad's opinion, I couldn't sing. I was not a singer to him. I just was his kid who wanted to do some activity, and he was all right, I'll pay for it, Reese. Whatever. I played tennis growing up. I sang. I, did different stuff like that. Played saxophone for a brief second, but it was just things he was just oh, you're my kid. If you, whatever these kids want to do, go ahead. He was that kind of dad. We could roller skate in the house. He didn't care. He just wanted us to live, but, and have happy childhoods, but when I did have to do, went to a singing, or went to a family function and I had to sing, it was usually with my mom's side of the family. And believe it or not, they would make me sing, The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow by Annie. Girl. I was again? And I would literally go to my grandmother's house and literally try to run by everybody and go run up to the upstairs to like go play with the other kids. And they was like, it never failed. Like they would always call me, Reese, come down here and sing. And I'd be like, oh my God. And they would make me sing that song.
Just have to talk because that's so random.
A bunch of black folks, okay? A bunch of regular black folks in West Philly. They'd be, come down here and sing. Come down here and sing. Sing that song. It was almost like they didn't care what song I sang. They just wanted me. But for some reason, it was that song. And I would be like, oh my God. I would not want to sing. I'd be like, I would not want to sing. I really never wanted to sing for my family, like ever. It was like a cringe moment for me. Like I would be so like, why? I just want to play. Like, why are y'all doing this to me? But they would do it. But all that to say, the flip side is I had a very supportive family. And they didn't care what I sang. They just were like, girl, sing. But, you know, and then it kind of stopped. Like, once I got a certain age, it stopped. And then, like, since I've gotten a record deal in my 20s and blah, 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 they never ask. They never ask now, which is kind of crazy. Because now I wouldn't actually mind singing for my family, but they never ask, which is so funny to me. But they come to my shows. They'll come to my shows and be like, oh, that's good. You know? But it's just so funny. Yeah.
Were there any other musical traditions that were always present growing up?
Well, not really, because I didn't grow up in a family with a bunch of musicians and singers and stuff, like, at all. Like, I literally it was one other person that I used to hear about that apparently was like an opera singer. But I don't know who she is. It was not on my father's side of the family. You know, I'm not really close to my dad's side of the family. I'm just not. And so, but no one I know is, you know, a singer. Now, I have a brother that is in the music industry, but on the management side, you know, he managed P&B Rock. And so, you know, he's all business dude, you know, and, but other than that, nobody in my family does music. Oh, but until my sister has 2 sons and they both play instruments. One is named Miles and he plays the trumpet. And Aaron, he plays the drums. And they are 15. Miles is 15 and Aaron is 11. And I'm not sure if they're going to lock in and play for the rest of their lives, but they play right now and they love it and it's their choice and I support them 1,000%.
Okay. It had to come in again somewhere along the line.
Girl. I'm like praying. I try to like Jedi mind trick them into like being a musician, you know, but at the same time, I'm like, do something else as well. Do not just be a musician. So, they're into a lot of great things. Miles and Aaron, they're both very smart, like in book smart. And, you know, Miles is a brainiac. He's just a smart, brilliant kid. Aaron is brilliant as well and is also into baseball. So, you know, you never know. Never know what you're going to get.
I know you talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but how would you describe your father's personality, especially in relation to music? Is there anything you want to add?
Well, my dad, as far as his personality, he was definitely one of those life of the party types of people, but not because he's jumping up, dancing, swinging his arm, like not that kind of attention. He just was such a likable guy. He was smooth, you know, he was tall, dark, and handsome. You know, all of his friends were fly. You know, they would go to Las Vegas and hang out with, you know, Red Fox and shit. You know, they were like those fly dudes in the 70s that, and in the 80s. Like, when I watch TV shows like, what is it called? What's the TV show? It's called, BMF. When I watch BMF, I'm like, oh, this reminds me of my dad and his friends. Like, they were those dudes. Like, they were fly. They were gangsters. They weren't drug dealers, you know, because not everybody that was a gangster in the 70s and the 80s had to sell drugs, you know. So he wasn't a drug dealer. He was a number writer, like what Malcolm X did. And he was just, him and his friends were fly, you know. They had Cadillacs and Vets, Corvettes and Mustangs, and, you know, as far as the music's concerned, you know, my dad kind of resembles like Teddy Pendergrass. He had that vibe. You know, they wore suits, had gold chains, medallions, rings. You know, they looked like musicians. You know what I mean? But they weren't. But his personality was big in a sense. He was a boss. People respected him. People loved him. People were afraid of him. The ladies loved him. You know, always had a pretty girl or a pretty, you know, people wanting to be. He was like one amongst the pretty people. You know. But he didn't fuck around. He didn't play no games. And, but he was a self-made man that worked really hard for his. He didn't graduate past the 6th grade, but he managed to surpass a lot of people in education just by doing. He owned a lot of stores, corner stores. He had a construction business as well. You know, he lived a full life, you know. He was one of those people that, you know, drove cross country with his friend, and along the way they got jobs along the way to fund it. You know, he told me once that he, on the way to California, him and his friend, they needed jobs. So they would go and work at a laundry, at a dry cleaners. And the one guy would get the job because he knew how to work the machines. But at night, they would go and work at night. They were night workers, and my dad would go with them and learn how to use the machine. So the guy was doing double the work, so he would get paid more, you know, and then they would just quit the jobs and keep going to the next city. And then eventually they got to California and hung out for a little bit, but definitely came back, you know. Yeah, my dad was like a jack of all trades and an original gangster for real. You know?
Would you say he was the same way as a father growing up? Anything you would add about that?
As a father, he was a great dad to me. And, you know, he was a great dad because he was a great provider. And he was a great dad because he wanted the best for his kids. You know, he wanted the best for me. And he gave me the best, you know, and I think he gave us the best. He showed us the best. He expected the best. You know, he was more gentle with his daughters than he was with his sons. He always had flowers delivered to our home every 2 weeks, something for my mom and 2 smaller, bouquets for me and my sister. And they would come on clockwork, you know what I mean? So for me, he was a good example as to how a man is supposed to treat me. But I would say that because I spent so much time with him, I picked up a lot of his ways and his traits. And, you know, he could be very stern and very, cold at times in business and with people. But I feel like I understood why, and I understood it because I am that as well. So I didn't feel any like negativity from it really, you know, but he definitely was, I think, a better father than he was ever a husband. And so I guess I'm glad I was a kid. You know what I mean? Mm. And, but I wouldn't trade him for the world. And, and he just, you know, he was just an OG that worked hard and cared about his family and did for his family always.
Anything you would like?
The last thing I want to say is that they don't make men like that anymore. He would always say, he would always say that a man wasn't dressed unless he had a hat on. My dad wore tailor-made suits. but he also wore like sweatsuits and like Filas, and like top 10 Adidas. But he also would wear old man comforts and jeans that were so starched that you could, it looked like a piece of paper, like hard, like cardboard. And then he would always wear a Stetson, Oxford shirt, a Stetson hat, and a mink fur coat. And it's funny because, that was like his signature look. Like on a everyday look, he wasn't wearing a suit, but on an everyday look, he would wear this black Stetson hat, like Run DMC, a black one like that. Sometimes it would be a mink Stetson hat, or a regular one. And then he would wear like a thin gold chain with a medallion on it. That's of a gold coin. He would have like an Oxford shirt on that was starched and stiff. And then he would have his dark brown mink coat and his denim jeans and a pair of black hard bottom shoes on, and some rings and a Rolex. Like that was his style. Like my dad was an OG. You feel me?
Yeah.
So when Jay-Z talks about like, oh, we wear, button up shirts and everything. Like I would look at that and I'd be like, wow, my dad was wearing that in the 80s. Like Jay-Z's late, you know what I'm saying? Like, because that style was just so in, for a long time. But he was like, a man's a man, and, he would greet people and call them blood. He'd be like, what's up, blood? Like he was that dude, in the 70s. So he was a good one. They don't make them like that anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah, he was fly. He was cool. But he was a hard worker. He woke up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning, was at work by 6 a.m., so he worked hard. So, he was a good one.
Anything you would like to add about how he expressed himself musically? I know we talked about that quite a bit.
Well, the only thing I can add is that, he loved music. He loved listening to music. He loved, he opened a speakeasy up, and I think he just liked, being around people enjoying music, but he would go to different concerts and things like that, just like anybody else, but, and he would try to dance. He wasn't the best dancer, but he would, do his old school slop dances and stuff. But he definitely loved music. He had a specific zone of like 1970s stuff that he liked, and doo-wop. And, but, pretty much other than that, that's kind of like my connection with him, through music.
He opened up a speakeasy in
Philly.
In Philly?
Yeah, in North Philly.
What was it called?
It didn't have a name. Speakeasies don't have a name all the time. Well, speakeasies, when they're like legit speakeasies, they don't have names, Nowadays, people say, oh, I got a speakeasy, and like, the name and the address, and it's like, okay, that's like the hipster version of a speakeasy, but it didn't have a name, and they had a backdoor entrance and everything for you to get in. But yeah, it was in North Philly. So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. He would just call it the speakeasy.
Yeah. And that makes sense too. But yeah.
It was like a legit speakeasy. It wasn't like it's just a bar and we were saying it's a speakeasy. It's like, no, it's like, it doesn't have a name. Like, it's no sign outside.
Yeah.
And we don't want anybody to know.
Did he ever school you in music at all? Or shape your learning in any type of way?
I think the only, he paid for my lessons. That was for sure. That shaped it. That was a good thing. But really he just, as far as music, he just was supportive of whatever I was doing, and he always thought that I, should be the main person on stage. I remember one time he came to a Gnarls Barkley gig, and I was singing backgrounds for Gnarls Barkley at the time. And I was, we were finally coming to Philly with the tour, and, I was feeling good about it or whatever. And I was like, oh, Dad, you got to come to the show. And he came to the show, and he was so pissed that I wasn't like singing with CeeLo, and that I was like a background singer. He was like, what? He was like, well, why are you on the side of the stage? Like, what? I ain't come to see that. He was like, oh, no, I didn't like the show. He was very honest. He was like, I didn't like that show. Like, no, like, you on the side of the stage. Like, what? Like, why? Like, damn near, like, why did you invite me to this shit? You know what I mean? Like, so they were just supportive. Like, they want me to be the star,
Mm-hmm.
And he would never tell me like, oh, you're the best singer, or I love this song. He wasn't that type of guy. He wasn't going to, like, I guess, big me up in that way. But I always knew that he was supportive and he loved what I do, because everybody else, if I got around any of his friends or anybody that knew him, even to this day, when I say, oh, yeah, I'm Lamont's daughter, they're like, oh, are you the one that sings? Are you the one that sings? So I know from that he bragged about it. He told everybody about it. I got to take him to Japan on a promo run for my first album, and that was pretty special because he got to see like how hard I was actually working and what we were doing, and he had acknowledged that and stuff. So that was pretty cool. But he shaped my music because he shaped me as a person. Like, I'm a pretty, like, I don't fuck around type of chick. You know what I mean? And I definitely got that because I'm his daughter. I walk into the room with confidence because I'm his daughter. I don't fuck around because I'm his daughter, because I'm not built like that. And he was a part of who I am and why I'm built the way I am. So, all of that kind of stuff really shapes you as a musician and as a person. Because people deal with you a certain way or not, because of how you step in the room. So he may not have said, oh, you need to play this instrument, or you need to sing it like this, or, you need to sing on that song or whatever. But, just because of who I am and the characters, the characteristics that I have that are similar to his, I may not, have his complexion or something, but I have, his mind, or how he feels about certain things, or, I have his ear because he, helped shape my ear for music just by driving me and blasting music a certain way or playing certain songs, So I think in that way, he has definitely shaped my career and my music and what I do and what I like. And most importantly, what I gravitate to, which is what you asked me earlier. I gravitate to the same music I listened to when I was with him. Anything in that genre, which is 60s and 70s R&B, I'm there. I'm in it. Because of him.
Okay. If your dad had an artist name, what do you think it would be?
OG. Original gangster, like,
Yeah.
That's what it would be, Lamont, his golden boy, because he had a gold Cadillac at one point. So he said people used to call him Golden Boy. So it could be one of those, either just Lamont or Golden Boy or OG, A lot of people called him Soup. I don't know why, but maybe that would have been his rap name. I don't know. But, or maybe he would just be Lamont Ballard, because that's kind of a cool name too. It probably would be Lamont Ballard, because he was always very confident in his own skin and who he was, and he wasn't. And the one thing I do get from him as well is just being comfortable being authentically yourself, and that's what he was, and that's the main thing that I take from him, is just being me. Love it or leave it. This is how I am. This is what you're gonna get. Yeah.
So did y'all ever create music together?
No.
Sing together? Maybe in the car?
Not just in the car, but not even like oh, I'm singing and he's singing and we don't like,
Mm-hmm.
not even like that. Just like on some regular, like if he's humming along and I'd be like laughing, like, oh my God, you hear daddy singing? Like it's, but not like, I can still hear how he sings like in my head, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't like he wasn't someone who like was confidently singing these songs because he knew he could sing. He was singing because it really moved him. You know what I mean? It was that kind of thing. So I don't know. You don't really like mess with your parents when they're kind of in that mode. You're just kind of like,
Yeah, like, oh.
like, they're feeling that one today, Lamont. You know what I mean? It was like, and I don't even think he would even like have thought that was like a funny joke. Like he was not the type of person that, you know how when you're younger, you buy your parents a card that says like, oh, you're getting over the hill. Ha ha ha. Happy birthday. He was not like, I did that once and he was like, what the fuck is this? Like, he didn't say that to say, but he looked at me like, are you out your mind? Like, this is not funny. Like he was serious. He was like, no, like I want a happy birthday, dad. You're the greatest, or you love me. You do these great things. He wants like a serious. He was not in with them jokes when it came to certain stuff. So, but we weren't singing on, like, in the car rides on long car rides or anything. But, but he just would enjoy it, and turn it up and sing along. And, if he liked a certain line or whatever, but, not like, Chevy Chase.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, okay, I have maybe 3 more questions.
Okay.
What would you say is your dad's legacy?
I think my dad's legacy is who he is, like some people say, oh, your kids are your legacy. And it's like, no, I don't believe that. I feel like people just have kids. If your legacy is having kids, then you didn't do anything but have kids. But my dad did a lot more. His legacy is who he is and his generosity. And his legacy also with that generosity is him being a boss. And not like, oh, a boss like Rick Ross is a boss. Like, nah, I mean like, the dad of the block, like when something goes wrong, you can go to him. When you need something, people go to him. If you need commissary on your, for your kid, and you're like, yo, I need my bills paid because I'm trying and I couldn't get it done, or something tragic happened. It's like, you go to my dad, he took care of a lot of people. He was there for a lot of people. He helped make a lot of people. And, but he also, made a lot of people smile as far as just being a good, fun person. But I think his legacy, like I said, is, who he is and what he contributed to so many people. When he passed away, I had to go back through the different apartments that he, rented out to people and his real estate and stuff. And, it didn't make any money. Some stuff wasn't even making money. It was like, how much are you paying for rent for this house? Like, this is ridiculous. This is not even like this is barely covering the bills, and, that showed me like who he was. He was the type of person that he would just help people, if they really needed it. Even one of the people he rented to, he left in his will that they get to keep the house, and this woman in particular, she came from New York at like in her early 30s and moved around this certain neighborhood that he was renting homes in. And, they had a friendship and just, he always looked out for her because she was like a young woman after moving from New York to like North Philly, and, so, to me, that's his legacy, like, how he helped people and who he helped and why he did it. And, he would do things like he would rent a whole bus and buy a bunch of tickets to the Lion King and then take a bunch of like kids from North Philly to go see the Lion King on Broadway. Like he was that dude, So I think through his generosity and through his taking care of people, also having a stern fist on certain things, you know, he has a lot of integrity, and as far as, you know, just his work ethic is his legacy as well. You know, his work ethic, his generosity, and, you know, just being a real man, you know, being a real man.
Mhm.
That's his legacy.
Okay. I forgot to ask you this, but you kind of already mentioned some of these phrases.
Mm-hmm.
But to backtrack a bit on my list, not that you would know, but were
Mm-hmm.
there any particular phrases or quotes that your dad will always say?
Oh, girl. My dad was a number writer, so, you know, he had all types of quotes. You know, his main quote is, love the life you live and live the life you love. That's his motto, right? He also would say, you know, things like, you got to kill two birds with one stone. He would also say, it's cheaper to keep them, you know, things like that. Like he would talk in these like phrases, like in these, I don't know what you call them, these little quotes. He would answer, and he wasn't like a really talkative guy like that, though. You know, I'm much more talkative than he ever was, but when he did say something, people paid attention. You know, he would have little phrases like when he would write numbers, you know, somebody was at the window too long, he would be like, all right, you know, glide to the side. You know, little like cute little phrases, fun little phrases like that. But yeah, you know, you know, that was his thing. That was, you know, love the life you live and live the life you love. And he would always say that, you know, there's in life, you know, it's good and bad, and you just try to make sure your good outweighs your bad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he lived by those kind of things.
Okay.
You
know? So last question. What life lessons has music taught you through your father-daughter relationship?
I guess, you know, music, like through my relationship with music and my dad, it's like, it just showed me that, you know, it showed me, you know, that you don't have to be like, really, you don't have to be like financially, like for a long time I thought, you know, the one thing that would make my dad happy is like, you know, me having like a certain financial success, you know, but music kind of taught me that, you know, he just really wanted, what made him feel good at the most, you know, the most is that I just was happy, you know, cause doing music made me happy, and he got to see that, you know. So I think that's like what I learned, you know, about it. Like, you know, you know, your parents really are the most happy when they see you happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like what I learned the most, because, you know, sometimes, you know, when you have a parent like my dad, you know, you see, you know, financially all the things. He was very successful financially, you know. So I would see like all the things that, you know, money can buy and money can give you. But I know, like, you know, money definitely made him happy, because, you know, he liked living in the house he lived in. He liked dressing fancy, and he liked having jewelry and stuff like that. But, you know, he really loved his kids more.
Mm-hmm.
So, and those are the moments that I've had with him, they didn't have anything to do with money. They just had to do with, you know, like I said, some of the best memories are just driving in the car
Mm-hmm.
with this person, listening to music.
Yeah. I can definitely
And
relate.
that doesn't really cost anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what I learned through music, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like music can really, you know, make your life. It can really make your world. It can really, you know, remind you of great memories. it can, make you nostalgic in the best ways and in the worst ways, but, music does something that money can't do,
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you would like to share that we didn't talk about that you definitely want to be known?
I don't know, but I think I do have like a video. Like I got interviewed with my dad once, and there was there's like a part of this video that I would like to share. I don't know if there's
sure.
You did say that, you know what I mean? I don't have it like to recall it right now or whatever on my phone, but it's like a short, like couple of second thing that would be cool.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'll send it. Yeah,
I definitely would love that.
Yeah, it's like something we took like. It was funny because the interview was about like the person that was interviewing us worked for a company that wanted to do a survey on store owners who sold cigarettes in urban neighborhoods. And so they were talking about showing us different images of the Marlboro Man and Newports and, different ads and what he thought about them. But at the end of it, there's like a cool moment or whatever. So I always, I was just thinking about that.
Okay. Yeah, I am gonna reach back out and kind of ask people, do they have anything they're willing to have in the exhibition?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll go from there. Yeah, maybe even playing that clip, because we're gonna have screens available, to play them. Mm-hmm. Whatever medium it calls for. So definitely would love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that wraps up this amazing interview. Reminded me of my mom's dad, my granddad, Billy Joe.
Right. We all have
Miles Davis and the Blue Notes, listening, Billy Joe.
Right. We all have that person, and it's like that was like my dad.
Yeah.
It's like, and my grandfather was even crazier. Not crazier, but he was kind of crazy. I was just talking about him the other day. My dad was like 6'1", right? My grandfather is about 5'5". My grandfather looks kind of like Elmer Fudd, like the black Elmer Fudd. He would wear the little hat, the t-shirt, blue pants, boots. He hunted rabbit, like it, had the cigar, and just was from such a other time. He was, he was in World War II, like fighting and taking people out of gas chambers. Like, it's wild. My grandfather was wild. He was like a Republican,
Wow.
Yeah, it was like he's that old that like he remembers being a Republican, and he's like,
yeah.
I think I had braids in my hair, and he was like, you might as well go back to Africa with them braids. He's like, you ain't got to wear shoes. I was like, Grandpa, so the men in my family on my dad's side, they're pretty interesting,
Yeah.
Really funny. And I grew up working with them and being at my dad's store. That's why I I was always with like my grandfather and my dad and one of my uncles, my Uncle Sonny. And, so it's just interesting, like being a little girl and being around these men, you know what I mean? In an environment that's not at home.
Yeah.
So you get to see who they are amongst the world, like amongst people, so it's pretty cool versus just seeing them, in the home, like eating dinner and stuff. You see them being men out there. So,
Yeah.